Thank you very much indeed. It is 27 minutes to 9. The UK and the EU need to recognise reality and ditch their support for the current nuclear deal with Iran. So says Donald Trump. But yesterday, Boris Johnson said the UK remained committed to it in a phone call with Iranian President Mr. Rouhani. Mark Wallace is a former US ambassador and now chief executive of United Against Nuclear Iran, which has strong links to the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and the former National Security Advisor John Bolton. I asked him whether this week, in his opinion, was an important win for the United States.
I think this is one of the most consequential moments in foreign policy, certainly in the region, if not for a generation, certainly for some time. The reality is that Qasem Soleimani was one of the most destabilizing violent figures in the world. So to the extent that he is no longer with us is a symbolic and an important strategic victory. And I think that Iran's response was very revealing. Iran showed, very similar to the Iran hostage crisis when President Reagan came into power, that a full confrontation with the West is out of the question for Iran, and that Iran is not an irrational actor, that they will not sacrifice their control over their people in order to have a full confrontation in the West. And if we do respond thoughtfully, hopefully always, to their provocations, that we can keep their provocations in check. From that perspective, this was a very important week.
Are you confident that this is, for now, is over? Because a lot of people would say Iran has got plenty of capability. If you witness their attack on that Saudi oil facility, very highly technically proficient, generals from the Iranian forces have said, we'll take our time, we will decide the moment of our reciprocal response, not the Americans.
I believe that Iran, with its very quick reference to the United Nations Charter and their proclamations of saying their response would be no greater than firing their intermediate ballistic missiles to vacant areas surrounding coalition bases, suggests that the appearance of crisis that we have right now is at least put off for now. But I would just suggest
So you're saying the US has called Iran's bluff on this one?
I think that Iran is a paper tiger, and I think that they made a mistake, in my opinion. And look, it could be, I fault the United States in a thoughtful way, as I'm a former American diplomat, and I don't like faulting my own country. But we have been very hesitant to adhere to some of our positions, whether it was President Obama and his red line related to Syria, whether it's been President Trump's at times a failure to respond to the drone attack, the attack on oil tankers in the Gulf, the attack on the Saudi oil facilities, and his repeated statement saying, look, if you press us, we were going to react. And that reaction led to the targeted strike on Qasem Soleimani and the founder of Kataib Hezbollah. So I think that the United States is showing that, look, we don't want to react, but we will react quite decisively if pressed.
And yet the House of Representatives has voted to limit President Trump's ability to pursue military action. That looks like a lack of faith in their commander-in-chief. You've got Boris Johnson, who wants to stick to the existing Iranian deal. So does the EU. This leaves the US exposed on their own and seen as unhelpful, inflammatory influence in the area.
Politics is charged across the world right now with a rage of populism. You are experiencing it in your great country that I've called home at times. So the lack of confidence and faith in leaders and in allies right now is at an all-time high. And I think that is a problem that is beset upon your country, mine, the European Union, Eastern Europe, and we're suffering that across the world.